Welcome to my class. Yesterday we had a complete discussion about the types of sentences such as simple, compound and complex. And in this class I have mentioned here, you can mark a diagrammatical representation to differentiate simple sentences from compound and complex sentences. So as we know that in a simple sentence we have only one clause. That's why it is called a one clause based sentence. And also at the same time I have already told you a clause is a sentence like structure having a subject and predicate parts, and in predicate part we can have a single finite verb. So I have made a complete representation diagrammatically. You can mark here sentences. I have divided it on the basis of the clauses that each of the sentence contains. So you see here one clause based, that is simple sentence, and more than one clause, both compound and complex. I have made it clear. You can have a complete picture of this. Then you see, so when one clause based is there, you must be sure of that it is a simple sentence, because in my last class I have already told you a simple sentence is equal to one clause based, means one clause based sentence is equal to a simple sentence. And if we have more than one clause, then we must be sure that it is either a compound sentence or a complex sentence, right? So I think you must not have any doubt over this. Sure?
Sure.
Now I have almost 10 sentences for you all. So we will go one by one. First you see, Mohan wrote a letter, and next to it, I heard my friends, birds fly in the sky, Gopi is working in his field, I have already done my work, my uncle gave me a notebook, Rahul worked hard, Hari sings a song, walking is a good exercise, to err is human. You see, I have 10 sentences right now, and we understand from these 10 sentences that they are all simple sentences, right? Because you see, in each of the sentences we have the very broad two parts, subject and predicate part, and a finite verb in the predicate part. In the first sentence, wrote is the finite verb. In the second, held is the finite verb. In the third, fly is the finite verb. Then is the finite verb. In fifth sentence, have is the finite verb. My uncle gave is the finite verb, and worked is the finite verb. Sings is the finite verb. Is the finite verb, and last one is also the finite verb. So in each of the sentences, in the predicate part, we have a single finite verb, right? So as we have a single finite verb in each of the sentences, So definitely they are all simple sentences, right? So you must be sure that the finite verb must be in the predicate part, right? And very simplest formula we have to identify the finite verb, and this is nothing but we must be sure that the verb which is very close to the subject. If we have a verb very close to the subject and the very verb is the finite verb. So here you see wrote, it is very close to the subject Mohan, so that it is the finite verb, and help, it is very close to the subject I, so that it is the finite verb, and fly, it is very close to the subject birds, so that it is a finite verb, and each, it is very close to the subject Gopi, so that it is a finite verb. So similarly, the verb which is just after the subject, we must be sure that it must be the finite verb. Clear? So the finite verb appears at the beginning of the verb phrase, right? So here you see is working. In the fourth sentence we have the two verbs here, is working. So it is also a verb phrase. As a result, is the first verb, so that it is the finite verb. And in the fifth sentence, have done, so have is the finite verb, right? And in the rest of the sentences we have only a single verb, so that they are all finite verbs. And in 4 and 5, as we have two verbs, so is the finite verb and working is the non-finite, and have is the finite verb and done is the non-finite. Is it clear? I think you must be clear of this. See? So far we have completed our understanding about the types of sentences, and now I have some questions to discuss with you all. Let's see. The instruction is underline the finite verbs and pick out the simple sentences from the following list of sentences. I have almost 7 sentences in my list, and some of the sentences are simple sentences. We have to pick them out, and at the same time we have to identify the finite verbs. As I have already discussed with you all, a finite verb is the verb that shows the tense. And for your better understanding, for your better reference, we can find the finite verb at the beginning of the verb phrase. Here you see in the past sentence, did write, it is the verb phrase, and the beginning verb is did, so that it is the finite verb. Is it clear? Then you come to the second sentence. The weather is very cold now. Here we have a single verb, definitely the verb is finite. No confusion is there. And in the third sentence, I have bought a book which is very costly. My question is that, just see here this sentence very closely. We have 2 different clauses here. How many clauses? 2 different clauses here we have. I have bought a book, it is a clause, and another clause starts from the relative pronoun which is very costly, it is another clause. In this way we have here 2 different clauses. One of them is I have bought a book, and the second is which is very costly. And as we know that the more is the number of clauses, the more will be the finite verbs. As a result, here we have two finite verbs, right? So in the first clause, I have bought a book, have is the finite verb, and in the second clause, which is very costly, is the finite verb, right? And here we can find also the two different clauses, and one of them is independent and the other is dependent, right? So which is very costly, it is the dependent clause, and I have bought a book, it is the independent clause, right? So as a result, it is definitely a complex sentence. Clear? Then you come to the question number D. The train had left before I reached the station, and as very similar to the question number C, D also have two different clauses. And the train had left, it is a clause. Before I reach the station, it is another clause, right? So as a result, we have two finite verbs. Had is the finite verb here in the first clause, and reached is the finite verb in the second clause. And before is a time adverb. So adverb clause is also a subordinate clause. So that we have two different clauses here, and as a result, one of them is a dependent clause, another is an independent clause. The dependent clause starts from before I reached the station, it is the dependent clause. The train had left, it is the independent clause. As a result, it is a complex sentence. And in the fifth sentence, we have the children have been playing for last 2 hours. So the sentence is in present perfect progressive, and it is definitely a simple sentence as we have a single finite verb. This is have. Then come to the sixth sentence. Have you written the essay? It is an interrogative mood, and have is the finite verb here, and it is also a simple sentence. And in the sentence number 7, Hari sings a song. Sings is the finite verb, and it is a simple sentence. So in this way, Hari sings a song, it is the simple sentence having one finite verb, that is sings. And have you written the essay? Here the finite verb is have, so that it is also a simple sentence. And here children have been playing for the last 2 hours. Have is the only finite verb, so that it is a simple sentence. And also we have here the weather is very cold now. Is here the finite verb, so that it is a simple sentence. Only one finite verb is there. And Mohan did not write a letter. It is also a simple sentence having one finite verb, that is did. Clear? So we have already discussed very keenly, very perfectly, very systematically the finite verb and the simple sentences from among the 7 sentences I have written before you all. Thank you very much.